Hi, today at the Writer's Mind, we are talking to Kristen Howe. Kristen Howe is the creator of Law of Attraction Key. Now, more than that, she's you're a coach, you're a productivity coach, you're basically helping people live more positive lives, right? Okay.
You got it.
Okay, so Kristen and I, of course, have known each other for a number of years. I know a lot of her stories. There are some that I'm hoping I'll discover on this, and also want to know a little bit about your background. So tell us from your days in New York. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, so Days in New York, I was a Broadway. I did Broadway and national tours as an actress, singer, dancer for like 15 years, which was an amazing thing. Between shows at one point, decided to take up dog walking, and I'm still acting. I'm still doing all of that stuff out here on the West Coast. But then most notably, what kind of started my shift into what we're doing and what we're talking about here is I I needed a break. I needed a break from shows. I needed a break from it, which they're a brilliant thing, by the way. That is a brilliant lifestyle, and as a fellow creative, it's an amazing thing that feeds you. But I'm sure you all know what it's like to have the thing that feeds you start to not feed you for a little bit of time. And so I needed a break. And I needed a break from the dog walking. My God, I love dogs, but boy, did I need a break from all of that. And it was a lot of walking in Manhattan in the rain. And there was a lot of picking up of poop. And it finally was like, you know what, I need a break. Through a very long story that I won't bother getting into, but the basic version of it is I was looking for something. I've always been one of those people that just kind of throws hooks in the water and darts at a board or not at a board, just throws darts. And luckily, things tend to come of it. And so I reached out to this guy who I'd been reading his book. It was sort of yeah, it was mindset stuff. It was, high performance coaching type stuff. And I reached out to him. I knew he was in New York, and I said, "Hey, if there's anything I can ever do for you, I'm in New York as well. I'm a Broadway actress, and just let me know." And he, oddly enough, he emailed me right back, and he said, "Yeah, it's funny you say that. I'm running an event in New York City." And he said, "I'm getting really stuck on how to do it and like where to have it." And I said, "You know what? I'll take care of it." I had no idea what I was doing, by the way. I just was like, "I'll take care of it." So long story short, I put the whole thing together, no clue what I was doing. We had it at a dance studio where I would rehearse shows. People flew in from all around the country. And by the end of that year, I had created an entire sales team for him and was running the sales team as well as the entire coaching staff. Again, these were sure, they were things that I did. I was always the person in the show that people would come to, and we'd sort of figure out how to not sit and get stuck in our story of gloom and doom, but how can I help you see the potential in you and how incredible you are. So this is something that I'd always kind of done naturally. Ended up doing it.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but just this
Sure.
person that you're the man that you reached out to, was he I mean, what was he? Was he a mindset guru? Was
Yeah.
he?
So, and I just for purposes, his name, actually, I can tell you, his name is Mike Littman. He wrote a book called Conversations with Millionaires, where he interviewed people like Robert Allen and all these people. And I had connected to that book based on the fact that at that point I was just consuming that stuff for me.
Got it.
And so I reached out to him, and yeah, it turned into a whole thing where, over that year, I think when I first came in, he was doing, I don't know, I think like 20 grand a month. And then by the end of that year, it was $1 million sales team. So it was kind of a
Wow.
yeah, it was kind of a cool thing. And I went, oh, I kind of might be good at this stuff, and I enjoy it. And I was also coaching. So yeah, so that's how I sort of started to transition into this side of things. Like I said, it was all built around, and as writers, you guys get this. You want to build your life around what you want your life to be, right? Isn't that like a thing? You're not wanting to be like, tucked under a desk unless you have to be, or so that's really the impetus behind this was how do I allow myself to do the creative projects that I want to do, and still am feeding this other side of me as well as, I'm paying for it. So I
Well,
can
there is
take
that.
projects.
Yeah.
Well, you can take interesting projects that you might not have been able to take. So it was a cool way to sort of create a life. I always say that people look at things and go, oh, that would be a dream job. And I'm like, well, that dream job probably didn't exist before that person came up with it as a possibility. So that's kind of what I did for me.
How long ago was that?
Uh, that was in 2002 that I was working with Mike.
Right.
And then so I've been doing this stuff for a lot more years than I just realized. Wow, I just
But
did
you
some math
don't
there.
look it, and that's important.
Well, thank you. That's all that matters.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
how do you go from working with somebody to
Mhm.
suddenly doing this on your own?
So I booked the show. Actually, it was a show that I did Annie on Broadway, and a guy I did it with came to me and said, "Darling, I wrote you a show." And I said, "Great." And sometimes that can be great, and sometimes it cannot be great. And this one happened to be really fun and campy and featured me brilliantly. So I was very grateful for that. And the show got picked up to come out to LA. And so with Mike, I said, "Look, here's the deal. I can't be in the office." And there was some resistance to that at first. And I said, but let's,
Okay.
just because there wasn't the time of that. Like now we're in an era of everything's remote. That was just beginning. This was what, 2006 at this point. So that was just all becoming a thing where you might not all be in the same place doing the same thing. And I said, here's what I can do. I can't commit to all of the stuff I've been doing, but I can still, close sales calls, and I can still coach. And he said, okay. So I came out to the West Coast, and that's what I was doing. And then he very nicely called me at some point, and he said, we had a big event, and everybody was asking for you. I really think you should do this thing on your own. And I was like, I don't know, because that felt like, yeah, I'm great at making you a big, brilliant thing, which is funny as a performer that I was resisting that. In the meantime, ended up working for another sort of guru who's much more in the very like hypnosis side of things, law of attraction side of things, and which now I have half that company. So that was another weird story, which I won't get into now.
I
But
don't know. We kind of like weird stories.
yeah,
We're
you
kind of
like
into
weird
that.
stories? Okay, so it's I when I first moved out here, I did not have any money. I mean, it was good luck, figure this out. I came out here for a show. I came out for what I wanted to be doing, and oh man, did I not have money. And so I was like, okay, well, I saw this thing on the internet for a program that it really resonated with me, and I was like, I need to get this thing, but it was $177. I will never forget that. And I was like, oh man, I got to do it. So I buy the program, and it comes to me in the mail. And so it comes to me, it's the right program, but for some reason the wrong name is on the package. So I don't know why I cared. I have my program. Like, what do I care? I decide to send off an email because, I've done this thing, and I'm like, hey, just so you know, the wrong name is on the package. That could get a little dicey for your customer service. So just a heads up. The guy now, it's not the guru, it's his sort of marketing person, sends back, oh, thanks so much for letting me know. Yeah, we're having a terrible time with customer service. I'm trying to do it, and it's just too much. And so I said, I'll do it. Again, not really knowing what I'm doing. And he said, okay. So again, long story short, this guy the marketing guy who was running things, great guy, but he's something shiny. And I used to be something shiny, but he's something shiny to levels that I could only ever aspire to. And he got himself really derailed, and the business started to really tank. And I started to go, oh God, my meal ticket is going away. And at this point, I'd started my own blog. So I was sort of on my way with my stuff. I was like, okay, because I had all the connections, right? So I knew it was just a matter of time of me getting my stuff written. So I had to figure it out, juggle it. And so the guy decided he wanted to leave the company because he wasn't making any money. He got a different client. And so I threw my hat in the ring to the guy in Australia who's the guru. And I said, hey, I'm happy to do this. So now I have 50% of the company. Needless to say, it took off, which is great. We've run it parallel to my company, and I'm thrilled. It's not actually my company. It's my business partner's company. But that was just again, another one of those cool, bizarre stories where you're like, I don't know why I'm sending this email. And so it was the encouragement of those people. And just one day I was like, I think I'm going to start a blog. And then it caught on, and I started to do stuff and speak more. And, I'd been coaching all along, but then I was coaching just as me, not for someone else. And here I am.
No, it's interesting that you say that, because I mean, that actually kind of speaks to, not necessarily its center, and please correct me, but it kind of speaks to, look, there's providence happens, especially when you need it, especially when you're ready for it. Favorite thing of writers, a favorite quote of writers would be, trust in providence in terms of your story, because you don't know what the hell your story is going to end, or how a character is going to get out of the jam that you put them in, and you just have to trust to providence somehow that it will come to you.
Right.
And it sounds like that's what happened to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that I teach is, The Secret, that came out, what was that, in 2009 or something?
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing. And that's great. A lot of what's taught in there is great. Unfortunately, what a lot of people walked away from it thinking was that, I just have to sit in the middle of my living room and think about things that I want, and they'll show up. And
that's what I thought.
Well, and I get that. And so a lot of the people I work with are people that thought that, and then were very, very disappointed. And here's the thing, that's not wrong. It's just that then when the thing that you want comes and rings the doorbell, you actually have to get up and answer the door. And so that's, the providence that you're talking. Yeah, providence is stuff's going to show up all the time that is just brilliant and has opportunity, seeping from it. But if we're not first training ourselves to look for that as opposed to what's wrong with everything, which is, we're all addicted to that. We're addicted to negative proof as opposed to positive proof. And I know that can be really hard, because we were talking about this before. As writers, what makes a story brilliant? The struggle. So it's hard as a writer to be invested in the struggle that you're writing. But here's the thing I would say to that, because you did bring this up. I believe, as a writer, and correct me if I'm wrong, you typically know that if you're getting into the struggle, you know that there is going to be a resolution. Am I right about that?
Well, yes. But again, my point to that at that point was, I mean, what we were discussing before we actually started was that, as a writer, we are looking to get our characters into deeper and deeper shit, basically.
You have to.
and I mean, that's what makes a story interesting.
Yeah.
But it's also endemic. It's something that's natural to us as people to look at the negative side of things, because we're always looking at things that can cause greater problems.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, we're hardwired that way. We are
Right.
hardwired for, where's the saber-toothed tiger that's going to kill me. The thing is that our reality is very different, but it's the same thing. So that's why we'll get, with something that is not that life-threatening, we will get flooded with the same instincts as if it were life or death. So the problem becomes that everything starts to take on that feeling. And especially with the pace that we're all moving at, and the access that we have, when you start looking for that proof and the negative proof, you're going to find it. You're going to find it everywhere. You are going to find it at lightning speed. You are going to find it 24/7. All you have to do is click on this link, that link, but you're going to find it. So that's a lot of times what I work with people on is, how do you become, you're addicted to finding proof. That's it. You're hardwired to find proof. So stop trying to be hardwired to find proof. What you can do, though, is you can flip the coin, and you can become a proof detective, so to speak, for positive proof. And the catch, the thing that people get really, really caught up on with that, is that what's the other thing we're taught? We're taught to Um, see, I really want money, and then I don't have money. So I look for proof that I don't have money. Okay, then there is I look over at that guy and he has money,
All right.
and
So
I hate it.
how is this different from self-fulfilling prophecies?
It is
Like it
self-fulfilling
is.
prophecy.
Oh, it is. It's exactly that then.
100%. So
Okay.
what happens is, yeah, no, and there's a whole cycle of it. So we start looking. So the our job now becomes fulfill a different prophecy. But which proof you're looking for is up to you. I can't decide which proof you're looking for. That's why two people can look at the same scenario and one of them goes, "That was shitty. What did that person just say that for?" And the other person's like, "Did you see what she was wearing?" Or, whatever it is. I don't know why that popped in my head. But, that's why.
Okay.
So up to you. Yeah, sure. Whatever. So the key becomes, and where we get caught up a lot is we think that if we see the proof of what we want in someone else's life, we should hate it. We should be pissed off. We should hate that person. And here's the thing. From a universal laws standpoint, and by the way, I'm not this like woo-woo person. I am all about use universal laws and then what is the inspired action that you need to take? It's high impact coaching is not just going to be like, oh, I feel so good. But from a universal standpoint, if you're looking at this person going, I want money, and that person has it and they suck, and guess what the universe is going? Oh, she hates money. I don't. So you're training yourself so to hate the very thing. You are in a complete vibrational disharmony with the very thing that you desire. So you
So
have to start looking for the proof, whether it's in your life or not.
so are you also shifting focus? I mean, it's
Yeah,
kind of you know
100%.
when you be not when I say when me like neither one of us have gone through this, but like my neighbor, when she became pregnant,
Yeah.
all she saw were pregnant women.
Yep.
So is that what is that
Yes.
in a way, it's that same thing. Kind of you're altering your focus. So when you think that I have no opportunity in my life, therefore there are no opportunities available. But when you say there are opportunities everywhere, I just have to look at them. Suddenly you're shifting your focus, from here to here,
Yep.
and that's
And
how.
that's such a great the pregnant woman, or when when you're looking to buy a car and you're like, this happened to me years ago where I was like, I think I want to get the Jeep. This was back in like the 90s. And then suddenly there were Jeeps everywhere. Now, granted, there were Jeeps everywhere, but that was like the only car. So the point I make with people all the time, which I'm so glad you brought this up, is you're already really good at this stuff, this like the secret stuff, this manifesting stuff. You're already really good at it. It's just you're doing it by accident. And so how can you do it on purpose? And some of that, yeah, the focus shift is huge, and learning how to do it. Let me give everybody a great tip. This is actually use it for good, not evil. Could be very helpful even in writing. It's a great way to get past objections. Yeah, exactly. This is one of those weird things that it works to get past objections, and this includes objections in yourself. So even if you're writing and you're like, I can't figure out where this is going, this will work for that as well. The question format goes something like this. First, you agree with the objection. So give me something. Give me
Well,
like,
let me ask you this. I mean, very much often a writer, especially a novelist,
yep,
will be involved in the story, and
yep,
they have those wonderful moments where they're going, "This is great, this is great," but more often than that, this is crap. Why am I wasting my time doing this? Why is this? I'm horrible. Why am I doing this? Things aren't going right.
perfect. Okay, so you start by agreeing with the objection, because what are we taught to do? Oh, no, no, what would our friends do? No, no, no,
Oh,
great,
right.
it's great. And what do you then do? If we get resistance to something that we are feeling, we want to dig in our heels and feel it even more. Then we're like, no, it's really bad. Even though it kind of makes you feel better for a second, no, it's really bad. Like, so let's not do that. Let's not let's not fan the flames of the resistance. Instead, you agree with it. So to yourself, you'd go, all right, well, I know I feel like I'm a piece of shit right now, and there's no reason I'm doing this. And then you open up your mind to possibility and you say, so you've already agreed with it. So what does your brain do? It relaxes because it doesn't have to fight for it,
Right.
right?
You're not arguing with yourself.
Exactly. So your brain relaxes and goes, oh, okay, good. All right. She totally understands. I like that I'm talking about my brain as if I'm a separate person.
Well,
We can
actually,
discuss that later.
we've kind of known that about you your whole life, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then what you do is you open up possibility and you pose a question. Now, here's why you're going to pose a question. Your brain you can choose not to answer a question, but your brain cannot ignore a question. So that's cool. And you can use it. So you say, okay, I know you think you're full of shit. You have no right to be doing this. Or the story is going nowhere. What am I even doing this for? Like you're wondering what your purpose is. But if you did have a purpose in writing this part, in writing this story, in even going through this part that's really struggle filled, what might it be? And you're opening up possibility.
And
You
this is,
first,
you say this to yourself. These are
you can
questions
say
that,
it to yourself. I'm also going to give you an example of how I used
okay,
this in a very practical sense to
okay.
really bring it home. So you're disarming the resistance by agreeing with it, going, yeah, I know you feel that. You're not saying it's true. You're saying, I know you feel like that. I know you feel like you have no idea where this story is going to go. But if it was going to go somewhere, if inevitably it was going to go somewhere, what are three options of where it might go? Your brain, you could choose not to answer it, but your brain cannot ignore it. And you've instantly set it into that mode.
I see.
It's one of those things, just try it. It's crazy how it works. Here's the practical real world example. One of my sales guys back during that time, he was like, Kristen's driving me crazy. I can't get through the wife that answers the phone that doesn't want to let me through, the husband that answers the phone that doesn't want to let me through. I can't get through them. I said, okay, so I taught him this. So this is how the conversation went. It makes me laugh every single time. This woman answers the phone, and she's one of those people, he's got her own speaker, where you can see her face just based on the tone of voice, where you're just like, this is possibly the angriest. Yes, exactly. Just a clenched fist of a face. And so he's like, hello, is John there? And she goes, no. Okay. Do you know when he'll be home? No. And I looked at him. I looked at Sean, my guy, and he looks at me and he's, it takes balls to do this, right? He's like, all he wants to do is hang up the phone because he's got the meanest lady on the planet. And he goes, I know you don't know when he'll be home, but if you did, what time might it be? And she went, probably about 8 o'clock. And done.
That's too
Okay?
funny.
So because you can't, like, it's just he agreed with her, which allowed her to relax, and then she told him what he needed to know. So that's why I say use it for good.
Now that actually sounds. I know this is a little off topic, but it sounds a little bit like neural linguistic programming.
NLP, sure.
And I don't
It's
know. Are you familiar with that?
yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
it bridges over into NLP stuff. NLP, a lot of times there will be, you use anchors of, I'm not certified in NLP, so please, I'm just sort of talking of things that I have heard through
You just
around here.
play
But
one
it
on
is
television.
it's very
Yeah.
much in my world. So obviously I am cocktail familiar with it. Let's put it that way. Cocktail party familiar. You know what I mean? Where people
Yeah.
are going to, wow, she just knows. And I'm like, no, thank God the conversation didn't continue. That was it. So yeah, NLP, I think will get a lot more based in, it's working with your subconscious, 5% of your brain. If you picture an iceberg, what is it? 5% of the iceberg is above the surface and the rest is below. That's how our brains are. That's our subconscious brain. So yes, NLP works to trigger your subconscious, get it in alignment with your conscious mind, because most of our conflict comes from those two things being out of alignment. So yes, that would be a tool that I don't know if it's officially NLP, but it probably falls within those guidelines somehow.
Okay. It's just interesting because obviously this guy was in a cold call situation.
Yep.
And so he was trying to, remove the objections of the person on the other line. But the idea of saying, listen, I agree with you. I don't know. I know you don't know when will she. When, but if you did, when would he wait? Oh, yeah, I don't know, 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that just seems like it's almost it's almost a trick, you know. But
Sure.
but before we went to this example that you give, you're also talking about using it in an internal way.
Yes. In fact, I encourage it more. I mean, it's great for communication when, again, used in a positive way, because most often resistant, you're not getting, by using it, you're not getting someone to do something that they didn't want to do and that's not good. You're just getting them out of resistance, right? To see if there is anything there. You know, I've had like a free strategy. I'll do a strategy session with someone before they come into my high-end coaching. And because for as much as they need to see if I'm the right person, I need to see if they're the right person. Otherwise, what are we doing here? So I'll use that sometimes if there's a lot of resistance. There have been times where the resistance gets dropped, but what's revealed is, yeah, we should not be working together, right? So it's not about getting someone to do something you don't want to do. It's about seeing what's really going on, because resistance typically is, we're protecting ourselves.
I
Right.
know, but still in my mind now, I've got this scene where a guy is talking to a girl and he goes, "Listen, I know you don't want to date me, but if you did, where should we go?"
Okay. And
I
there
don't know.
is that.
I don't know if that would work or not, but it would work in my book because
You
it's
know
my
how it
book.
would,
But
right? Well, or it would work in the, I know you don't want to date me, but if you did, what might be three of the reasons why?
yeah, oh, well, even better.
Right? It's taking it to, and that's a good example of, that's not necessarily better for the scene, because the other kind of is funnier, where she's like, oh, martinis,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
um, but because what that does is that makes your brain go, oh, what you're doing is helping the other person shift their focus. Now
right,
they can decide not to join you there. They might be like, screw you, and that's fine. They have it. Remember, I said your brain cannot ignore a question. You can choose not to answer something. There might be times where someone will choose not to answer something. It's not like a full-on Jedi mind trick. You know, you're not, but it does at least lower the resistance so that you can see if there's a conversation there to be had. And so,
right.
yes, use this on yourself, because the most resistance we experience in this world is within ourselves.
So let me circle back to something then that you talked about earlier, which was it's not enough to sit in the middle of a floor and, cross-legged, close your eyes and, picture wealth or picture abundance or,
Mhm.
picture people buying your book or the book flying off of shelves or you getting the Nobel Prize for literature or something like that. There's
Mm-hmm.
more to it than that, right? It's not
Yep.
just being passive. It's
Right.
being active as well.
And you could argue that it is active in the sense that what you're doing when you're doing that stuff. And by the way, please don't do. People ask me all the time, Kristen, what's the right way to do this? And I'm like, there is the way that works for you. So I'm going to do it differently than you're going to do it, right? So find the stuff that works for you. And if sitting in the middle of the floor with your legs crossed and oming it out and visualizing literally a book flying off shelves does it for you, what you're doing in those moments is you're getting yourself into, it's like music. You're getting yourself into resonance. Okay, if you walk into a room and there's two guitars and you pluck the string on the one guitar, the same string on the other guitar starts to vibrate. So what you're doing is you're getting yourself into resonance with the things that you want. To put it in very basic terms, how we were, which I prefer to put things in basic terms so that it's not
Well,
like
for me at
vibration.
least.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying, but
Yeah,
no.
I know.
No, it's better. People, they're like, oh, you can get lost in all this language, and then it's like, really, what it is exactly what you said. You are helping yourself refocus. You're popping the lens back from very, very tight shot where all you can see is your eyeball to you're popping it back so that you can maybe have a much wider range of focus. So that's what you're doing. You're putting yourself into resonance. You're putting yourself into an openness and a receptivity to, hey, maybe there is opportunity everywhere, even
But
though I feel like crap,
you still have to get off the floor, though, don't you?
Well, Well, not if hey, if you're happy like that and all of your needs are met, no, you don't. I'm not here to tell you you have to get off the floor. For my needs to be met and for my happiness, yeah, then you
Yeah,
got to get off
but I
the
mean,
floor.
it's not going to be, hello, big bag of money, here you go. I set my dogs
Here's
off, sorry.
but here's yeah, but here's the funny part about that is sometimes that's exactly what is being presented to us, and we still aren't seeing it because if you're not in that resonance, you're not going to see it. Someone could be smacking you in the head with the big bag of money, and you're going to be like, "My head hurts." You're not going to turn
I
around
see
to
what
see
you're
that it's a
saying.
big
I
check,
understand.
right? So that's what it is you're taking that time, which is very, very important to get in a higher frequency, where then you will potentially walk out in the world and see those things. And here's why, because it's not about the action you take, it's about what is motivating the action. It's about the intention behind the action that determines everything. Good example is back in the day, I remember going into one audition and feeling I needed that job. And I worked really consistently. And this is one period of time where I was like, really need to get a job right now. And I walked into that audition. I might as well have not gone in because when you go into anything in that desperate way, you reek of it. And you're no one, people are like, oh, that's heavy. I don't even know what that is, but I don't want any part of that. Then there was another time where I walked out of one audition because I was like, I'm not going to book this. And I wasn't stressed about it and walked in the door to into a different audition. And um, meanwhile, all that's happening is you're auditioning. There's no difference in the action. But what was going on within me, I booked my first huge national tour where I was like playing a lead and, all of this stuff. So it's what's motivating it. It's if you're stressed out about it and you're clamped down, and some people will then argue, and I used to be one of these people, no, but it's in those moments that I'm able to create things out of thin air, that magic happens. I would strongly suggest, because I used to think that, and then when I went back to the replay and looked at my life, I went, oh no, it isn't. It seemed like it was connected to those moments of stress. It was actually in the moment that I let go that's when the moment of inspiration would happen. Does that make sense?
It does. It actually resonates with me in a story that happened with me a long time ago before I became a development executive and producer. And I was just right out of college, and I was doing an internship for, this ages me, of course, Orion Pictures, long, long time ago.
Okay.
I know, stop nodding. And yeah, she goes, yes, it was a long time ago. So Orion Pictures at the time, I had a script that Orion had passed on. But I read the script, and the coverage on the script was really good. So I read the script. I really liked it. I thought, well, why don't I make it? Just know. And I didn't know anything. And basically, because I knew nothing, I had a partner. We called the writer, agreed. He agreed him to give us the project for nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't charge us for it, but we had the project for 3 to 9 months, I think, at the time. And then he said, I got to talk to my agent about it. And I said, okay, it's, who's your agent? And we said, well, his name is Bill Haber. And we didn't know that this is the guy that created the Creative Artists Agency. And so we said, sure, we'll call Bill Haber. Hey, Bill, you don't know me. I'm just a college guy. Just want to know, hey, this script I'd like. He goes, yeah, okay, let you guys have it. And we got to this point where the film was almost, going to be attached to at that time, a legitimate producer. Right. It was the guy who'd produced Blade Runner. And only because Blade Runner tanked as badly as it did this project never get off the ground. But the point is that I got 1,000 more feet, not knowing anything about it and not caring about who was big and important, versus somebody who said, Bill Haber, you're never going to get in to see Bill Haber. Are you out of your mind? And that's why it resonates with me.
Yeah, and so it becomes about, and that's a great story, but it's so true. Sometimes ignorance is the best way in. because you don't know. It's not that you don't know, it's that you haven't put all of this weighted meaning on it. So one of because then it becomes about, well, you're not going to always have your blissful ignorance. So how do you do things where you do want them to happen and you are engaged in that wanting, and it's a natural thing to want. And I think it's a matter of it's the hardest part of getting any of this stuff that I work with people on is the whole, you need to know what you want. You have to get in vibrational harmony with it. And then the hardest part is letting go how it's going to happen, right? It's allowing yourself to go, I have no idea. I have no idea that, like, if I had written to the customer service people in hopes that I was then going to have, basically have the company, that never would have happened. That wasn't out of ignorance. That was just out of, it never would have happened. I didn't even have that on it. The universe can provide things that you would never be able to imagine. So the second you start trying to plot out exactly how it's going to happen, and sure, you have to figure out some things, but that's the hardest part, is letting go of our control of wanting to know, because we do not like to not know how things are going to go, even if it means that how it would go is like incredibly better than what we could ever imagine. It's scary. So we want to know exactly what to expect. Why? Because we are pre-wired to be concerned about the saber-toothed tiger that is chasing us. And it's not chasing us, but that's why we're so busy looking at the things and for the things that might hurt us. And what we need to be looking for is the other stuff. Trust me, when you need to, like, I haven't watched news. I watched the towers fall from my window in New York, and was in the area where I had to show ID and have to go by armed guards. And it was horrible, horrible, awful time. And I got absolutely obsessed with the news.
Yeah, I think we all did.
People did. And yeah, I mean, of course, what are we doing? We're looking at what is all the stuff that might happen to us, that might take us down. The problem is we're looking at the same thing over and over and over again. So now all we're doing, it's not like we're getting new information. And shortly after that, I realized, wow, why would I want to live this way? And I stopped, and I have not actually watched the news since then. Now,
I find it really hard to do that, especially in this political climate.
Of course. But here's the thing. I have always known anything I needed to know, because you can, especially in this world. I mean, my God. But the difference is I know the things, but I'm not exactly what I said about during September 11th. I'm not hitting myself with the same information over and over and over again.
But how do you become informed enough to take a stand one way or the other? I don't want to be political on the show.
Yeah, no.
If you,
well, that's with anything.
If you're for something, if you're for getting every, all of the undocumented aliens out of here, unless you have knowledge, unless you read and understand what's being done and how it's being done, do you agree with it or disagree with it? How can you take a stand?
Right. So I do that, not through watching the news, and I do it once, or I do it as much as my brain needs to, but I don't sit there and daily read basically a regurgitated version of the same thing over and over that just makes me feel like shit.
So it's the repetition that will make you feel like shit. Because if you watch CNN, they've got 4 minutes of news that you can get in 4 minutes, and then they basically repeat it over and over and over again.
Yep.
Okay, and I understand that.
You see, but people do that. They're addicted to it. They're addicted to, let me look up every version of how this story played out. And it's, so, here's my thing is, I'm going to get the information that I need in order to be informed. I'm going to choose the sources that I'm doing that, so I don't feel like I'm beat over the head with that person's version or this person's version. I can have conversations with people. I can, but I am not going. And so when I feel then inspired to take action, I do. Now, especially if, and this is going to happen, especially with everything that's going on, there are going to be certain things that you're like, I feel compelled to take action on this. And there are going to be certain things where you're like, I can't possibly take that, I can't, like, you can't, where it's hurting you, where, the difference of going into the audition and you're clenched down and we're not helping anything by adding more of this to it. In fact, we are helping anything, and it's what we don't want to be helping. Because we are giving anything that you give your life force to, you give your life force to. It feeds them. It feeds it, whatever it is, whether that's a fear in your head, just to get it away from politics, whether it's something in your head or whatever, anything you're giving your life force to, you are giving that away from yourself when it's in that negative thing. When you choose to give your, when it's like if you and I had a great moment where it's like, I'm giving some time to you and some energy and some focus, and then it feeds you. And so therefore it comes back and it feeds me and all of that's a totally different thing. If the giving is not taking from me, that's the time.
Got it. So let me shift just for a minute because we are
Yep.
almost out of time. So
Yep.
I want to focus on the business side of things.
Right.
We are, especially independent authors, one of the things that really, really is helpful is building our emailing list.
Yep.
And, most of your marketing is happening online.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you doing and how are you getting that marketing? What are you doing to drive people to your website, to your list, getting them to sign up?
A lot of it has been through the connection. The relationships are golden. So a lot of it has been through the years, the different connections I have where, we'll, so to speak, cross promote. I will only do it with people that I believe in what they're doing in their product. Some people are not quite so discerning. And
These
I
are the
think,
influencers in your business, in your field.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So the people that I resonate with and believe in, we will then, because there's a enhanced credibility that way. So the first thing is if you do have people, that's the fastest, the smartest way to start, purely because you're transferred credibility.
Okay.
Okay. So transferred credibility is huge. If that's all you do, though, to build your business, you're screwed. It will last for a while, but then you got to do more. So for me, it's going to be some Facebook stuff. It's a lot of it is in. It used to be that you could, with anything, just have sort of one touch with someone, and they thought you were just the coolest thing on the planet. Now you need to nurture people. There needs to be, when someone comes into your world, so to speak, you need to indoctrinate them. You need to show them, in my language, it would be show them some results first. Now you have to do it in a specific way so that they don't then go, great, thanks so much, and they're gone.
Yeah, right.
But I don't mean that in a holding back way. It's built in a specific way so that
No,
the
no.
right people
You're in
want to
business.
continue working with you. Exactly.
You are
And
in
that's
business. So I
to
mean
people
let's
in a,
not be naive.
yeah, and to people in a
Right.
creative field, that is, I work with a lot of creative people, of course, because I have that world around me. So I'm passionate about it, and I am passionate about how many creative types, man, it is so hard for them because they don't want to be salesy. They don't want to
Right.
be pushy, or even with a creative thing, they're like, how would I even get that out there? So a lot of it right now is appealing to authors. A huge thing to do is to do everybody wants to know who they're getting in bed with now. They didn't used to care. So now right, but you know what I'm saying,
Yes, yes.
on all levels. So now it becomes up to you. In my personal opinion, someone else is going to come on here and tell you the exact opposite thing. That's how this world is. So if this resonates with you, it is the right path for you to take. If it doesn't, go with that other person. Neither is wrong.
Vaya con Dios.
But here's the thing. Now you are not just your work. It's just how the world is. You are no longer just the work you put out. You are no longer just your book. I am no longer, take my coaching and all of that stuff aside, as a performer, I am no longer just the person who got up on that stage and sang. People want to know the person now. So that has to factor in, because again, that whole resonating thing, there's so many people, and you have to jump off the page. If you are doing it just like everybody else, you're not going to jump off the page. So it's not being contrived. That's not what it's about, but it's about being as much you as you can be. And here's the hardest part of that to take, especially for creatives, and I get this, is we want everybody to like us. There's a reason, I mean, that's a natural state of everybody, but there's a reason we're all in this creative field is we're doing this thing that we're passionate about. And so if someone doesn't like it, we get it here and it's like a punch and I mean, it's just horrible. And you're like, well, why? Why don't you? And you want to focus. The instinct is to focus on being more likable to the people that don't like you.
Okay.
As is proven by your dog.
Yes, well, wasn't a comment on you.
Yeah, sure. Just
Sure.
barks and runs screaming from the room. But the thing we need to focus on now, this is a time, oh my God, have we ever had more of a depiction of this? It's a polarizing time. There's something to learn from that. All we need to care about is the people that resonate with our stuff, with our voice. The rest of them, yes, I care about them from a human standpoint. I want everybody to experience happiness and joy. Fact of the matter is, if you're not going to experience happiness and joy with what my creation is, if you're going to hate my singing voice, if you're going to, then you shouldn't be coming to see me. So I'm going to stop wasting my energy trying to get you to come see me.
Right.
Instead, I'm going to shift my focus to who my people are that resonate with me. Because a lot of times we miss those people, or we miss having as a profound impact with those people as we could, because it's really easy. You could get 300 compliments and one bad review. And what's the thing you're going to focus on?
Of course, the bad review. Of course.
Which comes back to exactly what I was and it's human instinct. So congratulations, you're human. And then it becomes about how do you have the skills to then go, hold on, totally human that I just felt that way. What really matters here? I know you think that negative review is the only thing that matters, and that means you're a piece of shit. But if something else really mattered here, if there was something else on the fringe of your viewpoint that really mattered here, what might it be? I guarantee you're going to be like, oh, the people that really loved it. And that's your only job. You're not going to be perfect. You are going to get off track. You are going to focus on the bad reviews. You're going to feel like shit. And I'm not saying don't feel it. Like, sometimes I'll set a timer and I'll be like, okay, I get to feel like as awful as I possibly can. Normally I end up laughing because it's funny.
Yeah.
It's like babies, like things move through them. And then you take your focus back to the positive thing. And I don't mean positive Pollyanna. I just mean, hey, if you hate country music and you keep tuning your radio to country music station, stop doing it. That's really what it is.
And on that brilliant note, we're going to wrap things up. So people want to get in touch with you. They want to get to your website. They want to actually hire you. Where do we go?
So I put together a gift with the creative type in mind. It's an audio from me. It's like a 30-minute audio. It's called 7 Steps to Beat Overwhelm and Finally Get Your Life Back. So you could translate that to finally get your book back, your story back, your whatever it is that you've got going on.
Whatever you want back.
Whatever you want back. Get sexy back. No, that's a song. So if you do want that, go to gobigcoach.com/7 steps, and you'll be able to throw your email address in. I'll send you a link to it through email pretty quickly. And that's where you can access that. If you're like, well, I don't know if that applies to me, which I don't know who it wouldn't, but that's fine. If it doesn't apply to you, you can also go to lawofattractionkey.com and check out. I have a ton of free video. It's my online magazine. So I have a ton of free videos and articles and all of that stuff there.
Okay. Well, again, you have been fantastic. Thank you so much. I truly, truly appreciate it. And I'm sure everybody listening appreciated it as well. Thanks again,
It was great
Kristen.
being here. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.